Welcome everyone. The year was 343 BC and the First Samnite War was reaching its breaking point. Rome had struck hard at Mount Gorus and clashed again at Suessula, but the Samnites were not defeated. They rallied their warriors, determined to crush the rising power of Rome in one final blow. At Suessula, the two forces would meet. On one side, the proud mountain fighters of Samnium, hardened by their rugged homeland. On the other, Rome's legions, led by the young but daring consul, Marcus Valerius Corvus. This was no ordinary battle. It was a contest for survival, a struggle to decide whether Rome's victories had been mere chance or the beginning of an unstoppable destiny. And in the fields of Suessula, fate would choose its side. After the clash at Suessula, the war did not slow. The Samnites, though checked in the field, were far from broken. They withdrew only to gather their strength anew, calling on their rugged mountain warriors to march once again into Campania. Their goal was clear: to seize control of its fertile plains, to choke Rome's allies of food and resources, and to force the Republic into retreat. The Romans, however, understood the danger. Victories at Mount Gorus and Suessula had raised their prestige, but hesitation now could unravel all that had been won. With resolve hardened, they prepared to meet the Samnites once more, determined to prove that Rome's triumphs were no accident, but the dawn of a rising power. It was in this tense moment that Suessula became the next battlefield. More than just a city, it was the key to supply, survival, and influence in Campania. Whoever held Suessula would tip the balance of the war. Our knowledge of these events comes to us through the Roman historian Livy. Writing centuries later, his words are laced with drama, sometimes legend, but still, they form the clearest account of Rome's earliest struggle with the fierce Samnite people. An alarming report quickly reached Capua. The entire fighting strength of the Samnites was on the move, advancing to lay siege to the city of Suessula. From there, mounted messengers rode in haste to the Roman camp, urgently appealing to the consul Marcus Valerius Corvus for aid. Valerius responded without delay. He ordered an immediate advance, leaving behind a strong force to guard the camp and the baggage, while he himself pressed forward with the main army by forced marches towards Suessula. Upon arrival, he deliberately chose a restricted site for his camp, small in area, for apart from the cavalry, there were no pack animals or camp followers to provide for. The Samnite host, assuming that battle would soon be offered, drew up their lines. When no Roman attack came, they marched instead upon the Roman camp, prepared to storm it. Observing the narrow size of the encampment and learning from their scouts that it held few men, they concluded that only a weak Roman force was stationed there. The entire Samnite army clamored for action, demanding that the ditch be filled, the rampart torn down so they might break into the camp at once. Had their generals not restrained this reckless eagerness, their rashness might have brought the war to an abrupt and disastrous end that very day. As it happened, however, the vast numbers of the Samnite army quickly began to exhaust their supplies. With their path towards Suessula blocked by the Romans and the battle still delayed, they were now on the verge of serious scarcity. Convinced that the Romans were too fearful to venture beyond the safety of their camp, the Samnites sent out foraging parties into the surrounding fields. At the same time, they believed the Romans themselves would soon be facing hunger. Valerius's men had marched rapidly, carrying only as much grain as could be borne along with their other equipment. To the Samnites, it seemed inevitable that Rome's soldiers, too, would soon find themselves in want of every necessity. When the consul Marcus Valerius Corvus looked upon the enemy, he saw his chance. The great Samnite host, so confident only days before, was now scattered across the fields, stripping the countryside for food. Only a few pickets and sentries remained to guard the camp. Valerius knew hesitation would waste the moment. He gathered his soldiers, speaking a few sharp words of encouragement, reminding them that discipline and courage had carried Rome to victory before and would do so again. Then, at his signal, the legions advanced. The Romans moved quickly and with deadly precision. Their heavy shields overlapped as they pressed forward, hosta spears leveled, driving straight toward the Samnite camp. The few guards at the rampart barely had time to resist. Surprised and overwhelmed, they fell back under the weight of the Roman charge. With a roar, the legions poured through the gates. The assault was sudden and merciless. Inside the camp, the Samnites were unprepared. Many were still in their tents, their weapons and armor scattered, expecting no attack. Panic spread like fire. Some tried to form ranks, but confusion and disorder betrayed them. More were cut down amidst their own possessions, then fell in defense of the ramparts. The Romans pressed through every corner of the camp, striking down resistance and seizing control in a matter of moments. Standards, the proud symbols of Samnite strength, were torn from their places and carried away in triumph. Yet Valerius showed restraint. Discipline was his command. Leaving 2 legions to hold the captured camp, he forbade them from touching the vast spoils that lay before them until his return. Once the Samnite camp was secure, Marcus Valerius Corvus prepared to deliver the final blow. He advanced with his men in open column, moving swiftly across the fields, while his cavalry fanned out in all directions. Their orders were simple, but merciless. Round up the scattered Samnite foragers as if they were game, and drive them back against the waiting Roman infantry. What followed was less a battle than a massacre. The Samnites, caught unarmed or burdened with supplies, were seized with panic. Terrified, they no longer knew where to rally, under which standard to assemble, or whether to flee back toward their camp, or scatter further across the countryside. Confusion and fear dissolved their ranks before they could even form them. Roman horsemen cut down men in the field, striking swiftly before the Samnites could defend themselves. Others were driven in desperate groups toward the advancing legionaries, who met them with leveled spears and unyielding shields. The rout became complete. So great was the terror that it left a field littered with abandoned arms. It was said that more than 40,000 shields were collected, far more than the number of Samnites slain, along with 170 military standards, some of them the very banners that had been captured in the earlier storming of their camp. Only after this grim harvest did Valerius return to the captured Samnite camp. There at last, the discipline he had enforced gave way to reward. All the spoils, armor, weapons, livestock, and plunder were distributed to the soldiers. The victory was absolute, the humiliation of the Samnites total. At Suessula, Rome had not only shattered an enemy army, but proved that her legions, under firm leadership and iron discipline, could outwit, outlast, and utterly destroy a foe that once seemed unbreakable. According to Livy, with the close of the campaign season, both Roman consuls were honored in Rome with a triumph. The Carthaginians, Rome's allies since their Treaty of Friendship in 348 BC, formally congratulated the Republic on its victories by sending a golden crown weighing 25 pounds to be dedicated in the temple of Jupiter Optimus Maximus. The Fasti Triumphals, the official record of triumphs, notes that Valerius celebrated his triumph over the Samnites on the 21st of September, followed by Cornelius on the 22nd. In the years that followed, little fighting took place. By 341 BC, the First Samnite War came to an end with the renewal of the treaty between Rome and the Samnites. As part of this agreement, the Samnites accepted Rome's alliance with the Campanians, thereby restoring peace while affirming Rome's growing influence in central Italy.